Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Yesterday I pruned up my larch bonsai forest, and today I'm going to be pruning the larches in my northern bog mixed forest. Here's a close-up look at the forest, and you can see the larch trees have green on all the buds, so I can see where I can prune back to. I can see what buds are living, where the buds are, and my goal is to get a tight conical form to the trees, which is reminiscent of the trees that grow up north. For some reason, the larch on the right-hand side here has developed. It's come out into leaf a lot earlier than all the other larches in the forest. I'm not sure why. I'm taking an overall look at the forest now, and there's a few things I want to correct in it. One is this branch here coming from this dead tree is kind of overhanging my larches. And I think it looks too long for a dead branch. I'm going to prune it back shorter. So maybe some of these, dead trees need a little bit of trimming just to get the branches a little more compact so they look more like a miniature tree. I feel that I need a tree in here, another larch. A larch to be in the foreground and then have the backdrop of the spruce trees. I just feel this path goes in here and then all you see is the row of spruce trees at the back. I think it needs one more larch in here to kind of give the planting a little more depth in this area. Right now you can kind of see straight through the forest and out the back of the planting. I would rather it, blocked a little more like the view in this area here. I do have one more small little larch here that I can plant in that area. I think that's a good sized tree and it should look quite nice. I'll start the work today by pruning back this branch. I've got to think, where do I want it? It has a division here, so maybe here. Taking that off, and maybe this one here. Giving it a little more of a conical form. Maybe this one can come back, and this one can come off here. The rest are looking quite nice. Maybe shorten this one up here. Maybe shorten this one a bit. Just to get these branches in the top here, a little more compact and more conical. So it doesn't, so it looks more miniature. It'll kind of match the form of all the other trees in the forest. I do like all these weeping branches. They're quite nice. There's a long one up the back here that can come off. Yeah, so I think that's got all the worst offenders, maybe a couple here. Just shorten these ones. I think that's good then. I think my next task will be to plant the little larch in the forest. So I'll bare root the larch, make a hole or a space for it here and plant it. All right, I'm going to place my larch in here, and I think I'll have it between these two spruce trees in the background. So somewhere here, and I won't have it perfectly in between them, I think. I'll probably have it towards the right a bit, so maybe right in here. So I'll just take out the moss in that area. And I'll keep that because I might have to place that around the tree. All right. So I think somewhere right in there, and I'll just kind of dig out a bit of a hole for it. I've got lots of spruce roots in here. Okay, I think that's good. Now I'll get the tree out of the pot and see what the root system looks like on the larch. All right, here's the larch tree. I will get it out of the pot. Oh, look at all the roots that have grown. Those grew all last year. Amazing. Larches do grow root systems quite readily. They're good at getting a good mat of roots in the soil. They're kind of like cedars.
Wow, it's a nice root system on this tree. Now, it was repotted, so I did do some root work on it. So this will be the second time in 2 years that I've done root work on the tree. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with the root system on it. It's looking quite good, you know, considering where it started as a nursery seedling. Look at that, eh? Yeah, that looks really good. So I got to do a bit of trimming. You can see there's a root way up high here, another one way up high here, but most are down at the bottom, which is good. All right, I'm going to do the pruning now, the root pruning. So I'm going to take off this, I think that was a root. I don't think it was a branch. So that is off. I'm just going around. So there's some fine roots coming off the trunk there, which look okay. This one's too high here, and it's a bit of a strange looking root too. So that's coming off. Where does that root come from? Way down there. That's a really long root, that one. I'll cut that off. There's a few here I can cut back. They're really, really long. Okay. Now, so I still have, this root is too high, so I'll get rid of that one. Once I untangle it there. And I think, like this one, you're never going to get your root system perfect. I mean, it's just a fact of life. Put these ones pointing down. I've got a root emerging here on the trunk and another one here, which is in the same plane. And then this one's lower, but not by much. I think it's quite acceptable. I mean, I could take that one off. There is one below, but I'm going to leave it. I think if I do that, well, I'll take it off. I'll take it off. There is a better one below. I can't take this one off. It's the only root on this side of the tree. So that one's got to stay. Now there's one here, you can see it comes out and then it takes quite a turn underneath the tree. So I'm going to prune it back. A risky cut. It might kill the root, but I've got a couple of fine roots there, so hopefully it'll survive. A lot of roots come off with it. This one also, it kind of goes a funny direction, so I'll take the tip off that one, tip off that one, take some of these longer roots back. And I think that is about it. That's about all the root work I can do on this tree at this time. All right, I had to pick a front for the tree. There's not a lot of branches on it, so I think this looks good. I just don't want any branches pointing straight out at the viewer, and the roots look quite nice in this view also. So, I mean, it's hard to pick a front view on a very young tree. So I'm just getting the roots in place in the soil here, and I'll build up a bit of a mound around it. But I'm just trying to get them so they're not sticking up at the end, so they're kind of going down into the soil at a nice angle. I think somewhere there is pretty good. Now I'm just looking at the placement of it. I could come forward a little. I think I'm too far back. It's kind of interfering with the spruce there. Yeah, I think I've got to take a bit more moss off here. Comb out the soil here a bit and move it forward. Okay, now I've got to get all my roots sorted out again. Make sure they're radial and in the soil properly. Might have to get my finger in there. There. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Now, I've got to add a bit of soil around there. All right, in goes the soil. using my new soil scoop, which is really nice. Very precise. And I'll get that soil kind of nestled in or tamped down. Okay, I think that's good. I have high hopes for the little tree. I think it had enough of a root system that it'll do well this year. I mean, all the others survived and they had not as good a root system as this tree. And it's the right time to, repot them when the needles are just starting to show a bit. This one could have been potted maybe a week earlier, but when it's just starting to show some green on the buds, but this is fine. Okay, I've got to get it watered and then place the moss around the tree. All right, I'll give the tree a water now. There you go, little tree. Now I'll add the moss around the tree. I've thought about adding a stone back here too. I think that would be interesting, kind of a feature back there. So I'm going to look around and see if I can find a stone that looks good, kind of in this location. I've been trying some stones out, and I don't know, it doesn't look good. I think it's maybe because it's the only stone in the planting and it sort of stands out too much. So I think I'm going to take that out, and I can always grow this larch branch a little longer in this clearing. So kind of the trail goes underneath the branches. I think that would look good. So that's what I'll do. I won't have a stone. I'll just kind of fill in this area a bit with branches. I just have to pull a weed out of here first, and then I can plant the moss. There's the weed. And now I can put my moss back in here. And a little more moss over on this side. And that'll fill in if I don't have complete coverage here. There's a view from the front, and I think that looks better. It kind of guides your eye down this deer path, and then it kind of guides the path kind of in behind here. Whereas before there was this big open space here, and I think that tree fills it in. And again, I'll grow these branches out a little longer so the trail goes underneath these lowest branches on the tree. I think that'll look really nice to kind of have a shady deer path there. I'm going to start pruning the larch trees now. So I'm going to start with the one that's out in leaf here, trying to bring it back compact. So I'll start taking the branches off. Like here's a branch here. I've got a branch back further so I can take the tip off. Same with this one. Again, trying to get that triangular or conical form to them. There's one here I can take back. I've got a bud back further. This one is very vigorous, and I don't have anything back further, but I have this other branch, so I'm going to take this branch right off. Now, is that branch attached to it? Yeah, it kind of is. I'll just take it back to here for now. There's some buds way back in there. I can take this branch off too. And there's a bud way in there. I can take that back. This can come off. This can come off. This one can come off. Big cut there. This one can come off here. There's a vertical one here, can come off. So it's looking more conical now. This one can come back. And there's one coming up the back here, kind of wrapping around, doing something strange. I can take that right back. There's a bud right at the base of the trunk. I could take this one back here. This branch at the back here, I could take it off. There is a shoot down lower. So I think I'll at least take the tip off here. Like that. And I think that's about all I can do right now on that tree. That's pretty good. Like, I'm happy with that tight conical form on it right now. I think that's looking good. Here's a look at that tree now. It's slimmed down to a very slim conical form. I'm going to do these 3 larches here. There's a group of them. I'll get those slim back too. And I think you'll see quite a difference. I think it'll really help make this planting look like something from way up north. All right, here I go. I'm going to start on this tree now. I'm going to start at the top and work my way down, trying to slim that apex. So this top part of the tree is dead. This was pruned by rabbits and it's died off. So this one of these is my new leader. And I do want the trees to be conical. I don't want like a cluster of branches in the apex. So I got to pick my one leader. And I guess it'll definitely be this one that's out front. So the other ones can be pruned back very, very short. To here. Here. Okay, I think that's about all I can do to that tree. It's not as compact as the larch here, but it's definitely more compact than before I started. It's reduced it quite a bit. So next I'll do the tree beside it here. I've pruned up my second tree here, so it's about as compact as I can get it. It's not too bad. There's a stump here where the rabbits pruned the top of the tree off, and then I'm growing a new leader up here. And I was thinking, you know, I could prune this off flush, but then I thought this kind of tells a story that the top of the tree got killed by maybe lightning or storm damage, and then a new leader grew up. So there's no point removing that stump because you're kind of removing the story. You're kind of erasing the history of the tree. It would just look like a tree with a bit of a kink in it. So I would rather have the stump there and then the new leader growing up. So I'm going to work on this back tree now, the third tree in this group. The new tree I planted, I'm going to just leave the foliage. I could reduce this branch back. There's a bud here, but until it gains some strength, I'm just going to leave it. I think it's fine as it is. The spruce here is very close to it, and I can prune that back. There's some buds forming on these branches back here, so I can definitely take it back to here. Just taking the tip off that branch. Maybe this one up here also, yeah. That'll give a little more light to this larch. All right, I'll get this cleaned up, all these little branches I pruned off, and then we'll have a look from the front and see how it's looking. Here's a look at the larches on the right-hand side of the planting. They're much slimmer. They look more like mature trees, look more miniature. So I think that's a good step forward. It's hard to imagine what they'll look like until all the foliage comes in, but I think they'll look fine, and I'll keep working on them over the summer to kind of continue to refine the shape of them. I'll continue pruning the larches, working from my right-hand side, going over to the left-hand side. So I got 3 larches here and 1 larch on the end, and that's about it. So there's 4 larches to prune up. Here's a look at the forest planting now with the trees slimmed down. It's looking more miniature. It did open up a lot of space between the trees. Yeah, it's a bit of a different look. The forest definitely looks less congested, but I think, you know, once they start growing in, it's going to really fill out. I'll be struggling to keep them under control, I think. So I'm thinking the next step, I was looking at some of these spruce trees, and there are a lot of back buds on them that I could safely prune some of the branches back, at least kind of do an initial pruning on them. And then as the buds swell up and I get more back budding, I can bring them back further later on in spring. But I think I'd better do a little bit of pruning now just to get them trimmed up a little to some of those back buds. Here's an example of a branch here. You can see this branch comes up, and I've got a bud here, I've got a bud here. So I could safely take some of these tips off of the branch just to get them more compact. And it might promote even further back budding along these branches. Like there's a branch in here. I pruned it off short, and there's a whole bunch of back buds way back here, which is really nice. Because I really want to get these spruces slim and compact too. All right, I'm going to begin pruning the spruce. Just trying to get them a little more compact if I can. Oh boy. Looking for buds. I'm also pruning out some of the branches that aren't going a very good direction, like this one. It kind of comes up vertical and crosses the trunk, so I'll take that right out. There's some buds. I can prune that one back. Prune this one back. Well, this tree's getting quite a bit slimmer. It's good, very encouraging. So some of these branches, I'm taking a chance on them. Kind of hard pruning them back. Generally, they will live. It's the right time of year to do this. The trees have had a good, good summer of growing. They're pretty healthy. So they should be able to recover from some fairly hard pruning. We will see, but I figure, there's no point having, some of the branches were really long, and I thought I might as well take a bit of a gamble on them, pruning them back hard, and see what happens. I can't have them spreading out. Some of the branches were like going from this tree way over to almost this tree. They were really long. And there's a lot of branches kind of growing, from one tree to the other, kind of growing in towards each other. And you want to clear out some of the branches in the middle, kind of giving each tree its own space. You don't want them too crowded. Otherwise you'll get branches die, the ones you want to keep. So I've done this with spruce in the ground, kind of almost a hedge pruning to them, and they survive fantastically. I don't know about in the pot here. I'm sure they're weaker than in the ground, so I'm hoping it still works, but maybe they recover a little slower. They won't be quite as vigorous. You can kind of see the individual trees now, which is really nice. It's getting closer to, what I imagined this to look like someday. Here's a look at the forest from the front. So you can see the spruce trees have a more conical form, and you can see the individual trees a little more clearly now. The reason I have the larch in front of the spruce is that in fall the larches turn a nice golden yellow color, and then they've got this backdrop of green, and it looks really nice. I could see a hint of it last fall. I could see the larch colors in front of the spruce, and it looked very nice. So I hope that effect just gets better and better as this forest develops into the future. I left one of the larch branches long here, and if you can see it down here, it sweeps up from the bottom of the tree and goes vertical, kind of like a cathedral branch. And I left it there because I could use a tree in that area, and you often see that in nature. A lower branch will get some light and it'll thicken up and go vertical and kind of form a little miniature tree. Let's go in now and kind of explore the landscape.
It was really nice working on the forest today. I planted a new larch tree. I got all my larches slimmed up to a tight conical form, and I got some pruning done on the spruce trees in the background. So I think it's slowly evolving and becoming more of a northern looking bog style forest. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.